Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC 323, Dvalishvili versus Ziam 2. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card. So in our first fight, we have in the featherweight division, we got Naimov versus Santos. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going average confidence, Santos to beat Naimov. I feel like average confidence, Santos to beat Naimov. But yeah, I feel like they match up pretty well physically. I think Naimov like 2 inches taller, and I think Santos has a 2-inch reach advantage. So it's like, oh, Santos is this big, towering young guy, and Naimov is this weaker, smaller, older guy. Like, they match up pretty evenly. I do feel like Santos is bigger, but again, like, Santos got a little bit of reach, Naimov got a little bit of height, but I think the reach is going to be more significant than the height. I don't feel like Naimov really uses his height that well. I feel like Santos will be younger. Let's see, let's double check his age. I definitely think he's clearly younger, 25 versus 31, so like 6 year younger. Not really a big advantage or advantage at all because it's 25 versus 31. Really, Naimov should have the advantage age-wise because he's in his prime and Santos is like 5 years off his prime. But, yeah, I just feel like Santos is the better striker. I feel like he packs more punch. I feel like he addressed the grappling, even beat Naimov in the grappling, but particularly just addressing the grappling, using that reach, using that speed, using the technical advantage on the feet and really on the ground as well to land the cleaner shots. And I feel like he can find an opening and put Naimov out in the second round via TKO. So in this one, I got Santos via second round TKO. Now to our next fight we have in the lightweight division. We got Aslan versus Baraniewski or whatever it is. But I'm going Aslan here, low confidence to beat Well, it's kind of funny if I say Like they're kind of like the same guy, but from different countries, kind of. Both first round finishing guys, type of fighters. But is the one who has, had the ups and downs, who has been the UFC level, and got that experience. I think that's what it comes down to, experience. And also will, again, he's not giving up much age. He's 29 versus like a 27-year-old It's only 2 years older. He has had like 5 UFC fights. Again, he has had his setbacks. And I think that experience will come through here. I don't feel like is some great grappler. Yeah, I don't feel like, let me just say Baraniewski because the name could confuse. Like you're saying who are you talking about? But yeah, the Polish yeah, Baraniewski. Yeah, he hasn't really been tested. He got a knockout over some BJJ legend in like 30 seconds, but the fight didn't get to play out too much. And prior to that one punch he landed, he was getting chopped down, but the fight was only 30 seconds. He was getting kicked off his feet. Then he landed a clean shot. Good on him, but can't really say too much. And we look at his career in the UFC, not UFC, but as a pro, just first round finishes. Has been later rounds, not too much, more so a first round guy as well. But he has had that experience. He'll be taller, he'll be longer. And his last fight, his approach, I think lost him the fight. But I think a similar approach or improved approach, like a similar approach to his last fight that he lost, or an improved approach as he did last time will come through here. Good. I don't feel like some great grappler, some great wrestler. I don't think so. So I think will be able to address his grappling. So not a great wrestler, not a great submission grappler. So I think should be able to address the grappling of Baraniewski. I think has the more polished striking. I think has a sturdy chin. We don't know about Baraniewski's cardio too much. We don't know about his durability too much. I think has shown a decent durability. He's been in multiple fights. He's eating some big shots. It does not really look like he had a bad chin. It don't like he has too much mileage on his chin either. He has had a questionable gas tank, has had questionable grappling. But again, his grappling got, as far as in the UFC, got taken advantage of by a guy in Cutelaba who has had another Ewan, Iwo. They all from the same family, low fight IQ fighters. but yeah, Ewan Cutelaba beat Aslan with the grappling. But we've seen Cutelaba been in the UFC for like 10 years, fight a lot of elite guys, out-grapple a lot of elite guys. So that's really not the biggest thing, especially in the fight right here when he's fighting a guy like Baraniewski who doesn't really show too much yet. And really a first-round fighter. So, yeah, I think will be able to use his length, use his experience, use his power to keep Baraniewski honest. And I can see him extending Baraniewski and pushing him in ways he has not been pushed and making him uncomfortable and then putting him out in the second round. So, using his experience, because he has been those fights where he's been on the other side of a more experienced fighter and he's come up short. And I think this is going to be the case for Baraniewski. Now he's fighting a more experienced Aslan who has had these losses in the UFC, who has had that experience, who has had to work and extend himself beyond these later rounds, whether he wanted to or not, whether he won those later rounds or not. But he's been there. Whereas Baraniewski, I can't say he's been there at all with an elite fighter. Even his Contender Series fight was 30 seconds. So I think Ibo Aslan will be better prepared to go 15 minutes if necessary. And I think he'll better deal with adversity in his fight than Baraniewski will. And I think he'll be able to put him out via second round TKO. So in this one, I have Ibo Aslan via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the lightweight division, we got Edson Barboza versus Jalen Turner. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go average confidence Jalen Turner to beat Edson Barboza. So Turner's not really the most trustworthy guy, to be honest. But Barboza, he's starting to show that age. I feel like his last fight he definitely looked very flat. And Jalen Turner is a great finisher, a big, huge lightweight, still in his prime. Mentally, I don't know if he'll ever reach a prime, but physically in his prime, I think time away he'll come back more sharp and motivated. I don't think he's coming back. I mean, if they would throw him back in the deep end and throw him with some young, hungry guys like himself, yeah, he'd probably get dogged. But throw him in there with an old veteran like Barboza, I think this is a fight he's just thriving. I think he should be able to touch Barboza on Barboza's chin, maybe drop him, catch him in the sub. That's what I see. First round club and sub for Jalen Turner. Barboza be a little bit quick, but Jalen Turner be quick to counter him, put him on the back foot, line him up with the 2 on the chin, tap his chin. Barboza butt touch the ground. He tries to pop back up. Jalen Turner hops on a Darce choke and put him out in the first round. So in this one, I got Jalen Turner via first round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, we got Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go low confidence Marvin Vettori to beat Bruno Ferreira. So yeah, I like Vettori here. Maybe it could be average confidence, but yeah, Vettori's coming off a close loss to Brendan Allen, and that loss is aging very well with Brendan Allen going on to beat Renier de Ridder and stop him following their close fight. So that's loss is aging very well. But also this fight, let's see, Ferreira. Ferreira is very short. He packs a lot of power. He got good BJJ. But I feel like his strengths are nullified by Vettori. Yeah, so I feel like his strengths are nullified by Vettori. I can see Vettori even get a sub here. Matter of fact, I will go sub for Vettori. Like late sub, like third round submission or late second round submission for Vettori here. But low confidence Vettori to win. And I'm looking like a late submission because Ferreira does not have cardio. He already got submitted by another fighter who had no cardio. But Vettori has cardio. He has durability. So let me go back. Vettori has his attributes really nullify a lot of Ferreira's strengths. So Ferreira is not really some big technical striker. He got power, but Vettori has an iron chin. I don't think he's ever even really been dropped. He's been rocked before. I've seen that. But I don't think he's ever been hit and his butt touched the ground. And he's been there with some heavy hitters. So his chin is pretty durable. Extremely durable. One of the best chins in the game. Obviously, at some point, it's going to run out. I don't think Ferreira's going to be the guy to expire his chin. I don't think so. And so Ferreira got bad cardio. Vettori got great cardio. Ferreira does a lot of power and relies on that. But Vettori has one of the best chins in the game. Ferreira has good BJJ, but I think, again, the cardio is not there. And Vettori has good BJJ. And Vettori's bigger, has better cardio and more experience at a higher level. So, yeah, maybe in a pure BJJ setting, maybe Ferreira is the better guy. We add MMA and cardio and the rounds and the style of this. I think Vettori should definitely probably 3-4 minutes into the grappling department start to really take over. Whether he's on top or bottom. And definitely by the second, third round, any grappling exchange, I feel like Vettori should be the clear favorite in it. I mean, he could do it from the jump, but I feel like, again, Ferreira's gassing is very limited. So I'm just saying, like, for surely, I think Vettori should have the advantage as the fight goes on in the striking and in the grappling. And he has the durability to tank anything that Ferreira has coming early, or at least the majority of it that's coming early. But yeah, Vettori's experience, his size, his durability, his pace, I think all those things should be able to break Ferreira down. And you got to see him, like, kind of dealing with the first round, whether it be good or bad, dealing with the first round, and then starting to take the fight over in the second round for sure. And then they start running Ferreira downhill, pushing the pace on him, breaking him down, and then submitting him in the third round. So in this one, I got Marvin Vettori via third round submission. Now to our next fight we have in the lightweight division, we got Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Terrence McKinney to beat Chris Duncan. So surprise, surprise. Not the best pick, but I'll go with it. You know, you got to roll some dogs every now and then. And Chris Duncan, like, on the run he should beat McKinney. But also, Chris Duncan being the guy he is a bit of a slow starter. He's not that amazing fighter in any particular area, but well-trained, well-skilled, tough, got a great mentality, willing to work, willing to improve. And that's been doing a lot for him in his UFC run. So, he's doing great things, but he always just shows those signs and shows who he is. He's a fighter that can be sparked early on in fights. And yeah, Terrence McKinney is definitely a phenomenal first round fighter. And I don't feel like Duncan's some particularly big puncher consistently or some particularly great hammer. Again, he's a good duration fighter. Like, as fight goes on, he can manage it pretty well. But he definitely could be exploited athletically early in at points in fights. And I think early in the first round, McKinney should be the better striker. Longer, younger, faster, more dynamic. The better grappler and striker early. It's pretty much, this typical McKinney fight against other good fighters. Does he get it done early, or does he fade? Maybe this be the fight that McKinney shows that he can get beyond that curse, I guess, that he has. That curse and blessing, that double-edged sword that he is. But I see it going in Terrence McKinney type of fashion. I think he'll be able to catch him early and put him out. Maybe club and sub, but I'll say KO early. I think it might be like a stepping knee, or maybe a stepping knee to a 1-2 down the pipe and puts Duncan out early in the first round, maybe in under 2 minutes. But yeah, I think Duncan just that type of guy that does get sparked. Where he got stopped, I think, second round by Borshchev. He got manhandled by, not by Harmonis, but Torres. In his, I think, only loss in the UFC. He obviously lost out on the Contender Series before, but as far as in the UFC, I think he only has one loss, and that was to Torres. And Torres was able to finish him in the first round. Borshchev knocked him out in the second round. But, yeah, I just feel like Duncan's liable to get sparked in the first round, and McKinney is the prime candidate to spark someone in the first round. Not too much analysis that can go into that, but I do think McKinney gets it done, and I think he gets it done in the first round early. So, in this one, I got Terrence McKinney via first round TKO. Now to our next fight. We have in the lightweight division, we got Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres. And how do I feel about this one right here? I'll go low confidence Manuel Torres to beat Grant Dawson. Low confidence Manuel Torres to beat Grant Dawson. And speaking of the last fight, Manuel Torres has a win over Duncan where he submitted Duncan, like suplexed him and then submitted him in the like first or second round, I think. But so he's not completely green in the grappling. It's his weakest area, but he's definitely not green in that area. So I think he'll be the bigger, physically stronger guy. It's a bigger, physically, what word am I saying? He's the bigger, more strong guy, Torres is. More pop in his punches. Dawson's like a one-dimensional grappler for the most part. Hasn't really shown much at all on the feet. And I can see this being like a Sean Brady versus Michael Morales type fight where Torres just defends his takedown, keeps a good base, and cracks Dawson with some big shots. I feel like Dawson doesn't really have the greatest durability or the greatest offense on the feet. And I feel like Manuel Torres can use his size and his frame and his physicality to maintain that distance and spark Dawson in the first round. But yeah, if fight goes further, I could definitely see Dawson taking away, Torres getting tired, and Dawson start to get those takedowns. But ultimately, I'm going to have to go with Torres to get it done. And I say in the first round, addressing the grappling, smartly applying the pressure, and cracking Dawson on the button and getting him out of there in the first round. So, in this one, I got Manuel Torres via first round TKO. I could have said some other things as well, but yeah. But I'll say anyway, post to prediction. I guess it's all one prediction video, so it is what it is. But Dawson, like when I look at his recent opponents, Ferreira is phenomenal in a way, but he does play jiu-jitsu a lot, so that played into Dawson's favor. Sadykhov, once you take him down, he does not get up. Again, another guy that plays jiu-jitsu or that plays defensively. So really, when you look at the majority of his wins, they have been against guys that, are good fighters, but they play into Dawson's style. Torres might not have as good at BJJ as those guys, but he's not looking to play guard with Dawson. So he's going to be doing everything in his will to keep his fight on the feet and to look to crack Dawson on the feet and get him out of there. So, yeah, I can see if Dawson had this big track record of fighting guys that did not get to the ground. I mean, he did have one win that very close to that, but that's besides the point. Looking at his recent wins, that's not really the case. Anyway, next fight we have in the lightweight division, we got Faraz Ziam versus Nazim Sadykhov. And how do I feel about this one right here? I'll go low confidence for Faraz. I'm about to say Fareed Zagari from CNN, but anyway, Faraz Ziam versus Nazim Sadykhov. But Sadykhov's wins aren't aging very well at all. I think his wins are like winless in the last couple fights. But yeah, I go for Ziam here. I feel like his wins are aging better. and his performances are looking cleaner. I feel like Sadykhov, his performances have not really looked all that clean. He fought a guy that he's supposed to run over, and he nearly got stopped by him in his last fight. He was getting picked apart by Bomb Theme until he landed that question mark kick. So he was losing the fight clearly until he landed that question mark kick. So he was probably landing like 6 strikes to 30 in that round. And his one strike that he landed significantly just happened to be better than the 30 strikes that Bomb Theme landed. It's not like he knocked him out, but he just landed the kick that happened to cut him in a particular spot that had to force the doctor to stop the fight. And yeah. But yeah, Ferreira Ziam is longer. His wrestling's improving. I think he's the better striker. And again, it's not like Sadykhov has been having these great striking performances. He's a good all-around fighter. He's tough. He's gritty. And I think that'll be enough to make this a decision-type fight and close fight. But I think Ferreira Ziam will get off to an early start using his length, using his range, just being a cleaner, longer striker there. Maybe even mixing the grappling here and there to give Sadykhov something else to look at. And I think he'll be the one better able to mix in the grappling. Sadykhov has not really been able to mix in his grappling very well in his tenure in the UFC. I know he trains with a lot of good grapplers like Aljo and Marab and et cetera, et cetera. But he himself has not really had the greatest grappling success offensively in his UFC career or Contender Series career. So can't really say this is going to be the fight where he's going to be able to do that. If anything, I feel like Ziam's improvement has been showing, and he's been showing that it against other solid grapplers at the weight class, or at least grapplers around the level he's currently at, and where Sadykhov is currently at. So I would say Ziam should have the grappling upside, the takedown upside, the length, more technical striker. But Sadykhov, I will give him the toughness edge, but I feel like Ziam will be able to exploit that toughness, land cleaner shots, dictate the pace of the fight, and beat Sadykhov. Close competitive fight, but Ferreira Ziam just having the better, more consistent offense and beating Sadykhov by decision here. So in this one, I have Ferreira Ziam via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, we got Mansour Abdul-Malik versus Antonio Troccoli. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'm going high confidence Mansour Abdul-Malik to beat Antonio Troccoli. So yeah, Troccoli, you just better off just going to play poker. Poker, maybe modeling. Fight is not really for you. Maybe teaching some BJJ classes, stealing some people's wives and girlfriends and whatnot, and is a BJJ instructor. Maybe a surf coach or something like that in poker. But combat, not for you. Like BJJ for you, combat, not for you. Like with punches and knocking people out and concussions, stuff like that. Pure BJJ, teaching BJJ, surfing, poker, stuff like that. Stick to that. Solid enough fighter, but just not one of those guys that, kind of has everything, but doesn't have the key things, I guess. Or the key thing. And I think Mansour Abdul-Malik just continue to show his improvement, use his wrestling to keep us on the feet, land his big shots, and get Troccoli out of there in the first round via TKO. So, in this one, I got Mansour Abdul-Malik via first round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the flyweight division, we got Maycee Barber versus Carini Silva. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go low confidence Maycee Barber to beat Carini Silva. I feel like Carini Silva really lost her last fight, we've been honest. Another thing, I feel like Maycee Barber has a good track record against grapplers. I think she's like, 4-1, 5-1 against grapplers. And in her last fight against grapplers, she's like 4-0, 3-0, 2-0. But yeah, on a good streak against grapplers, and historically has a good track record against grapplers. To stick, like, stat-wise, then when I be like, oh, so does she have like 90% takedown defense or this and that? I don't think her stats really reflect that well, but what mattered most, her win-loss ratio with grapplers and pretty decent grapplers at that is pretty efficient. So Maycee Barber does find her ways to deal with these grapplers. And Silva, in my opinion, is still pretty green. She doesn't have the best conditioning. She has never fought no one at this level that Barber is, so she's taking a big step up in competition. I feel like she arguably lost her last fight in the striking and grappling department of her last fight. But yeah, I feel like Maycee Barber will be able to address the grappling, land big shots. And especially as fights start to go on, those takedowns will be harder to come by. And that's where I feel like Maycee Barber is going to start to thrive, start to dig those knees to the body, land elbows, bust Silva up, and really start to dig into her, stalk her, break her down. Could see a late stoppage, but I'll say a decision for Maycee Barber. Breaking Silva down, extending her, and then putting the volume on her and landing those damaging shots. And while she has Silva on the defensive, gasping for air in the later stages of this fight. So, in this one, I have Maycee Barber via decision. Now, for the next fight, we have in the flyweight division, we got former flyweight champion Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Brandon Moreno to beat Tatsuro Taira. So initially I was going to lean towards Taira here, but I'll go with Brandon Moreno. Tatsuro Taira's most recent win just got beat, I think even quicker than he beat him, or roughly as quick as he beat him. Right after he beat him. Which is no insult to him, but it's not like Tatsuro Taira has had this like truly redeeming performance. It was a great performance. He dropped him. He submitted him. Great performance by him. But that win really has no real weight here jumping in there against a former champion in Moreno, who's still really in his prime. I think Moreno like 31, 32. Taira's still very young at 25. And I definitely think Taira could cause some issues in this fight. But again, it's not like Taira really has went in there against better competition and got a chance to show it after his first loss. Like I say, he did a good rebound, but this is a big step up. So that was a good rebound, but this is a big step up. You know, a couple different outcomes, and this could be literally be a championship level fight. I mean, it's 3 rounds, so you're not really getting the full 5-round experience of a championship fight, but a couple of different things. Like, Moreno arguably could have got the decision against Pantoja in their last fight. Like, arguably, it was a very close fight. You could have given that to Moreno. It would not have been a robbery. And Moreno could very well be the champion right now. So this is a big step. So fighting a guy who's probably like number 16 to jumping up and fighting a guy who's been a champion, still championship level, is a huge step up. And Moreno has done pretty well with grapplers, been doing a good job with defending takedowns, getting back up. Even Pantoja, it's not like in that last fight, he had such crazy control time. It was like a 25-minute fight, and he had like 8 minutes of control time. I think the most control time he had in a round was like 2 minutes, which is a lot, but on average of like a minute. And do I think Taira with like a minute or less of control time is going to be enough to beat Moreno? I don't really see it. And is Taira really proving himself to be at the level of Pantoja and Royval? Well, let's say Pantoja. He did pretty well against Royval, but he fell short. So he's not at that level. And Moreno coming off a loss. I mean, he's not coming off, but they both lost to Royval in their last losses. But, yeah, basically I just feel like it's a huge step up. And I have not really seen the track record to really lean into Taira. I think Moreno will be able to address the grappling. And also Moreno's been looking good, locked in. And also we look at the Royval fight. That was at high altitude, so his pacing, he was not the same exact fighter he usually is. Maybe a little bit more conservative, worrying about the high altitude. But this is at sea level or below sea level, to be honest, in Vegas. And Moreno will be able to push his regular pace. He's been looking hungry, looking locked in. And he looks sharp in both his last 2 performances, which I factored much more in Taira's most recent performance. So I think Moreno will be able to address the grappling, will be able to use his high-level experience, still young, still in his prime. Taira not even in his prime yet. I think Moreno will be able to outpace him, outwork him. I think there will be a lot of scrambles. I think this will be a good competitive fight, and I think it will be a good showing from both men. But ultimately, I just think Moreno will be able to address the grappling and push the pace in both the striking and the grappling and be able to outwork Taira to a decision here. So in this one, I got Brandon Moreno via decision. All right, now to the next fight we have in the light heavyweight division. We got Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'll go low confidence Jan Blachowicz to beat Bogdan Guskov. Guskov got some power. He's improving every single fight. You know, he's on a good upward trajectory. But I do think this is a big step up. Blachowicz, like, he might not, like, we look at his record, his wins and losses, and instead of looking into the losses, yeah, it might like, oh, this is a good time to fight Blachowicz. You look at it, hey, this is a good time to fight Blachowicz. But when you look into the actual fights, like, he's been in close fights. Ferreira fight was close. Ankalaev fight was close. Like, he's been fighting guys that are at the top of the level. And even his most recent loss is about to fight for the belt, pretty much. Uberg about to fight for the belt. Ferreira has the belt. Ankalaev just lost the belt. And you can argue that he beat Ferreira. You can argue that he beat Ankalaev. You can even argue that he beat Uberg to some extent. And these are the elite guys of the division. Like, Guskov's doing well, but he has not ever fought anyone to the level that Blachowicz is, or really even close to the level that Blachowicz is. He got good power, but now he's fighting a very experienced veteran. I think Blachowicz should be the better grappler here. Probably a bigger fighter as well. More savvy. I do worry about Blachowicz's defense and his age a bit, but I'm not so worried about his recent losses at all. I'm not factoring those against him. If anything, I'm factoring them for him. But yeah, I think Blachowicz will be able to be himself, chew the legs up of Guskov, and maybe potentially finish him late here. But I'll say decision. I think at this point in his career, Blachowicz not going to really get too many finishes. I think it'll be a fight where Blachowicz is going to show his skills, show his experience, and be able to take away the lead leg of Guskov, really limiting the power and limiting the ability for Guskov to plant. I also think he'll be able to mix in some grappling here as well, with Guskov being as aggressive as he is. So chopping the leg up, making Guskov plant leg wobbly, make him have to commit even more, make it a little bit more awkward, which will also make it easier for Blachowicz to time that forward pressure, time those big shots, and maybe mix in some grappling to even tire Guskov out even more, and maybe potentially look to find submissions on the ground. But mainly I just see this as Blachowicz is showing his wrinkles, showing his experience, showing why he was a former champion in both outside the UFC and the UFC. Yeah, KSW champion, UFC champion. Beat a lot of great guys, a lot of former champions. And just show all those wrinkles here and beat Guskov by decision here. So, in this one, I got Jan Blachowicz via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the bantamweight division. We got Henry Cejudo versus Peyton Talbott. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'll go low confidence Peyton Talbott to beat Henry Cejudo. Cejudo's one of the greats of the sport. Maybe not top 10, maybe not top 15. Maybe at one point he could have been it, but he came back and suffered some losses, and he moved himself back a couple spots and pushed him off that top 15 spot maybe. But yeah, great fighter, Triple C, champ, former champ, Cejudo going against Peyton Talbott. Going with Talbott here. I don't really feel like he has the upside that Usman has. Like, well, I'm not saying like that. Usman hard. What am I talking? What language am I speaking in? What accent am I speaking in? But I don't feel like he has the upside that Usman has or had in his fight against Buckley, when he went in there with a younger fighter and he was able to use his wrestling. Because Usman was the bigger, stronger fighter in that case. Cejudo is the smaller fighter. He's the better wrestler. Probably the more technical fighter. Definitely the more experienced, more accomplished fighter. But give him a lot of size. I feel like he's limited himself in his wrestling and in his striking. Another thing I'm not really liking from Cejudo in his last couple fights, I feel like his conditioning has not been the best in a lot of these fights, or at least his pacing. He probably could have been in great condition, but I feel like his pacing dipped off, whether that's mentally, physically, or whatever it may be, injuries. And I feel like a lot of his attacks are too linear. Like, he doesn't mix it up well. Like, he can try to coach people and give them good game plans, but when he fights himself, like, he just kind of just goes out there on the shield a lot of time. He don't really think through what he's thinking through. Or when plan A works, there's really no plan B except to maybe bite down the mouthpiece and try to walk him down and hit him with a right hand or something, or hit him with a left hand. So, yeah, Cejudo seems pretty limited. And Peyton Talbott's young. He suffered his first loss, came back hungry. He's willing to take risks. And I think he'll be able to address the wrestling of Cejudo. And it's never really been like Cejudo had the best control as a UFC fighter, to be honest. Wrestling, he's phenomenal, gold medalist. But as far as a control-type grappler in MMA, he really hasn't had too many fights where he has shown great control. Now going with a bigger, younger Peyton Talbott who's been working on that area of his game and as dynamic as he is, you got to think Talbott will be able to address the wrestling. If he does get taken down, I think he'll be able to get back to his feet. You don't know if you had to think he'll be too long, too young, too dynamic, too quick. And also I feel like Talbott's power is going to keep Cejudo honest. And that reach and that length going to keep Cejudo honest. And Cejudo's not going to be able to get off the best shots he wants, whether that be punching shots or takedown shots. He's going to have to be shooting out from far, and that's going to give Talbott extra time to defend the takedown. He's going to be reaching with these shots, and Talbott's going to be willing to make him pay for trying to land these shots and draw him into counters. That's a part of Talbott's game. You know, he likes to, he leaves that opening. Kind of similar to Ferreira in a way. I'm not saying he's Ferreira level of striking and anything like that, but it's kind of that same risk versus reward. And using that length, using that power, using that athleticism to their advantage. Like, they'll give you an opening. You're like, oh, Ferreira's so open. He's so open. Is he really open? He kind of like, you could try to hit me, but you're gonna give me the. You're gonna. I'm starting like I'm glitching. You're gonna see the opening, but when you go for that opening, you're opening yourself up for his hook. Similar with Talbot, like when you're going for the opening, you're opening yourself up for his counter, and he's longer, he hits harder than you, he's quicker than you, and he's better at taking advantage because he's literally trains that all the time to take advantage of that opening that you see on him. And then he sees the opening that you're going to present already. And he's already trained this all the time to capitalize on it. So Talbot's defense is very much not that good. But he'll use that to bring you into a 50-50, which he'll be able to hit you hard and you'll hit him. Or he'll be able to beat you to punch and hit you twice as effective. Give you that critical hit and put you out. But Cejudo got a good chin. I think he's durable. I could see Cejudo getting hurt, getting dropped here, but I don't see him getting finished. But mainly I see, again, Talbott is too long, too young. Cejudo not really being able to maintain good control if he does get a takedown. And Talbott has been longer, quicker, getting better shots off, landing heavy shots, and just controlling the tempo of this fight and beating Cejudo by decision here. So in this one, I got Peyton Talbott via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in our co-main event in the flyweight division for the undisputed UFC flyweight championship. We got Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. So reigning champion Pantoja versus Van. Second greatest flyweight of all time, Pantoja versus Van. Originally was going to lead to Van, but yeah, kind of similar with Taira in here. Like young fighter, Van's even younger than Taira. Taira's like 25, Van's like 24. Yep, 24. Like freshly 24 at that. Jumping in with Pantoja, who's at the peak of his game. I do like Van's ability to scramble. I do like Van's pressure. I like his pacing. I like his combinations. All good things he can deal with Pantoja with, or cause Pantoja a lot of issues. Potentially beat Pantoja with. But yeah, his best case of I had a fight that was similar to this one is Ray Cerrulla, who's another young fighter. So he's not really fought at a veteran that could fight him in a similar way to Pantoja. Maybe he trained with a guy like that, but as far as fighting, he has never really fought someone like Pantoja at the level of Pantoja. Like Ray Cerrulla is good and all, but Cerrulla is like 23, 24, 25. You know, another young guy, well, in his 20s, with like 2-3 fights in the UFC, whereas Pantoja has had like 20 fights in the UFC, been a champion outside the UFC. For elite guys on Ultimate Fighter, you know, there's a lot of experience. And yeah, Van had great takedown defense in his career, good scramble ability. But maybe this fight is just coming a little too soon. Maybe this fight, you probably fight at 27 when Pantoja is like 37. But Pantoja seems locked in, he seems motivated, seems hungry, especially after seeing his teammate Horiguchi have a great performance and want to fight him. So I think he'll be hungry, be motivated here to keep that belt and not go back to the DoorDash. So I think he'll be very hungry here. I think it's a big step up for Van. I think he's on a good track to be a guy that can beat a guy like Pantoja, but maybe this is just a little too soon because he hasn't really fought someone of the level of Pantoja. And he's fought some good guys, but the grapplers he's fought and the fighters in general he's fought are nowhere near the level of Pantoja. Like Royval, yeah, Royval's a good win, but that was purely a striking match. Pantoja's going to be looking to grapple you, look to strike you, going to take this 5 rounds and challenge you everywhere. Van would definitely be the better striker in my opinion, but I'll lean Pantoja here. I'll say decision. I think this might be like a Ursek type fight in a way. Different than the Ursek fight, but a fight that turns out to be very close. But Pantoja using that experience to be able to get these takedowns, get that control, backpack Van, win the minutes, drain him, and slow down his game, and force him to play his game. Again, it's using that experience, using that high-level experience, and beating Van by decision here. So, in this one, I have Alexandre Pantoja via decision. Now to our main event, we have in the bantamweight division for the undisputed bantamweight championship, we got Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. 2. They fought before. Merab dominated. That's how I feel. Low confidence here, average confidence here. So if I missed it, low confidence, average confidence. Average. So yeah, no need to ask me again. Average confidence, Dvalishvili. So they fought the first time. Dvalishvili dominated. I don't think a whole lot's going to change here. Petr Yan's talking about, he was injured here, injured there. I feel like even in his wins since this fight, that last fight, I still see roughly the same fight. If anything, I feel like Dvalishvili has shown greater improvement. I feel like Petr Yan has shown some improvement, but Dvalishvili has shown great improvement, and he was the one who dominated the first fight. And I don't agree with that whole Yan feel like, oh, I was injured in the first fight, making excuses now. I feel like he'll be better, but Dvalishvili will be even better, and he already beat him before. Petr Yan still loves that high guard. He still gives up the first round. Still a slow starter. Dvalishvili going to exploit that as he did the first fight. And you can't give a guy like Dvalishvili a lead. And Petr Yan, whatever it is, he just that analysis guy, that analytical guy, that he needs that first round to be slow. He just has to drop the first round. Like literally his last fight, he dropped the first round. Versus a guy that's not on the level of Dvalishvili. No insult to that guy, but he's not on the level of Dvalishvili. No one really is at bantamweight. So that's no insult. But yeah, dropped the first round. So you already know Dvalishvili about to get the first round, or at least one round in the fight, off rip. Then you got 4 rounds after that. And then you got to deal with already digging a hole against a guy like Dvalishvili who's not going to stop. Not Dvalishvili is a guy, he comes out hot. And then he gets cold. Dvalishvili, he come out hot. He gets hotter with every round. He's a cardio fiend. He has the greatest cardio in MMA history. Might have the greatest cardio in combat sports history. Like, guy has a freakish cardio, freakish gas tank. He's getting bigger and stronger. Every single fight, his grappling's getting better. And you got to think he's going to be able to, again, dominate that first round and continue pushing that pace. I can see Petr Yan taking a round or 2 here, but roughly rinse and repeat. Dvalishvili applying that pressure, showing that confidence in his striking, putting Petr Yan on the back foot, started cracking him down the middle with the straight, and then looking at Duncan for that takedown is constantly in his face, constantly pushing him, showing that growth and confidence in his striking, and that continued growth in his grappling, and that same trademark freakish cardio and pacing, and beating Petr Yan by decision here. But yeah, Petr Yan, amazing fighter, but I just feel like he's tailor-made for Dvalishvili to do what he's doing. And Dvalishvili has only gotten better. Yan has gotten a little bit better, but Dvalishvili has gotten a lot better. And he was the guy who won the first fight. And Dvalishvili is not showing any signs of losing any hunger or getting any bit sidetracked. So I just see Dvalishvili winning again. Maybe it's not as dominant as the first fight. Maybe it's more dominant, but either way, I see Dvalishvili winning. So in this one, I have Merab Dvalishvili via decision. And so that concludes my fight predictions for the full card of fights for UFC 323, Dvalishvili versus Yan 2. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.